Hello, everyone. Welcome to the State of Gaming Accessibility, a year in review. Some of people here probably have came to our panel last year, and this year we had accessibility panel last year, and this talk is gonna be a continuation of the talk that focus on the news and what happens with accessibility in the past year, a year and a half. And that being said, you don't need to be there last year to be here. These are definitely independent talk you can consume independently. So thank you.
Right, so just some quick disclaimers before we get started. Everything in this presentation are our personal experiences and opinions, and therefore are not to be taken as facts. We aren't sponsored by any companies, manufacturers, creators, or organizations mentioned, and the opinions expressed do not represent MAGFest or its affiliates. And everyone's situation is different. Accessibility is not a one-size-fits-all, and none of this is medical advice. Please talk with a doctor first before making decisions regarding your health and/or engaging in a new activity that may affect your health. If you feel pain or sickness from an activity, please stop and speak with a doctor. And if you're experiencing a medical emergency, call 911. And if you're experiencing a psychiatric emergency, please call 911 or 988. So a little bit about me. My name's Leo. My pronouns are they, them. I'm an accessibility advocate. I have moderate pain in my hands and wrists when using fine motor skills. So fine motor skills are small movements, so things like writing, typing, using my phone, or playing video games with a regular controller. I also get motion sickness from playing some games, and I get headaches from flashing lights.
And I'm Monica, and pronoun she, they, and I'm a game designer with being 7+ year industry experience. And my passion about accessibility has started in the beginning of my career. I actually started becoming a game designer as an accessibility designer. My experience with accessibility is I deal with a lot of challenge due to I'm neurodivergent and I have CPTSD, as well as I have fibromyalgia, which sometimes creates pain and during play. You probably couldn't tell. I also have low vision. I do have wear contact lens now, but I couldn't really see you guys' face very clearly. And so that's the reason I'm very excited to talk about accessibility and advocate for accessibility. But also I didn't start playing video game until I was 21. So I feel accessibility not just come from disabled player, but also people who just very new to game, as video game are so complicated these days.
So the first set of news we'll let you know about is the Accessible Games Initiative. So this is a multi-company initiative to create accessibility tags on digital storefronts to help identify accessibility features in games. And so it was developed by a whole bunch of companies that you can take a look at here, with the most surprising being Nintendo, because for those who follow the gaming accessibility space, they've been a little bit slow at rolling out accessibility features. So that's really cool to see.
Yes. In addition, this year we also see a lot of AAA studios start to open source their internal development toolkits. So if you are indie dev who one big example here is EA and Ubisoft, and EA and Ubisoft has spent many years develop an accessibility standard, and they have an internal tool that you can use as an engine plugin. So if you are indie dev, now you can go on GitHub and download those plugins and use it for your game as well. One of the challenge about a lot of accessibility initiative is a lot of accessibility discussion is happens outside the core development. So usually studio, if they're good, they have an accessibility like meeting in the beginning of the production, and then once they finish bulk of the game, they will like evaluate accessibility feature. However, sometimes accessibility feature doesn't really like compatible with core design. If you're interested, I actually have a GDC talk. It's free on GDC Vault about this. Like the system conflict is when accessibility is considered as like a separate part as the core design. Sometimes accessibility doesn't really fix when the gameplay itself is inaccessible, and when it's really bad, sometimes accessibility would make actually core gameplay much harder.
And a little something I wanted to add about that, the accessibility initiative that we've been talking about is that the rollout really hasn't been perfect. The accessibility tags on the Nintendo Switch 2 eShop were reported as not working at launch, which is really unfortunate. And Steam has left it up to developers to choose which accessibility tags each game has, and some are like really misunderstanding their meaning. I have two examples here. One is from To a T, and it says that it has full audio in English when it really doesn't. Like the way that the characters talk is kind of like Simlish, it's like gibberish. And my favorite here is Elden Ring, where it says that you can save any time, and for anyone who knows Souls games, that's not the case. You cannot save any time, and playable without timed input, which that kind of is the entirety of Souls-like games. So I think they would really benefit from having some like firm definitions here, and also hiring accessibility consultants.
Yeah, a lot of this is because it's based on developer. Developer just submit whatever information in the store, and Steam doesn't really have a verification process at the moment.
So something really cool that came out last year was the Xbox Adaptive Joystick. So this is a one-handed controller with 6 buttons, and the joystick can be replaced by commissioning a 3D print from a third party using files that Microsoft has, downloadable from their website. It can be used with or without connection to an Xbox Adaptive controller. So, this fine thing right here. And it can be mounted using a threaded insert similar to a tripod. So like someone could use like an apparatus to like attach it to a desk or to a wheelchair or to a table. And it comes in accessible packaging, which we love to see. And what's really wonderful is it's only $30 because for folks who have been following accessible like game peripherals and controllers, they can be really, really expensive. So this is great to see that nice low price. My thing that I'm kind of not impressed with is that there's no way to buy joystick accessories directly from Microsoft. You have to commission them from a 3D print artist, which can, one, be a lot more expensive on the consumer's end rather than Microsoft being able to make a whole bunch of them for pennies on the dollar. And also, too, as someone who works in healthcare, I know that sometimes healthcare agencies can get really picky about where you are buying your things from, and they may not approve of you 3D print commissioning an artist. And also, too, it would be nice for to be able to buy like a pack of them. Suppose like if you work in a healthcare setting and you work with a lot of different types of folks with different abilities. So I hope we can see that in the future from Microsoft. And also, too, the PlayStation Flex Strike wireless fight stick was announced. It's a wireless fight stick for PlayStation 5, and what's great about it is that there's no need to reach the USB-A port in the in the back to use the fight stick, because with a PlayStation 5, in order to reach that USB-A port, it's on the back of the console, and it's not accessible to me. And unfortunately, a lot of PlayStation 5 controllers have that, and not the port that's in the front. My question is, will this work with adapters on other consoles and PC? Because unfortunately, the PlayStation Access controller doesn't. and I would like folks to be able to use this controller on other consoles as well. And I also had the privilege of seeing what this controller looks like at EVO last year. And there's like a ridge right in front of the joystick, and it looks really uncomfortable, so hopefully it's not. And so a little bit of news about the the hot topic, the Nintendo Switch 2 accessibility. What's great to see is that the Hori Flex controller and the Xbox Adaptive controller, of course with an adapter, works on the Nintendo 2 at launch. I was so happy to see that. So important that players with disabilities are able to enjoy games at the same time as everyone else. And they added a screen reader to the menus, but it doesn't work in the eShop, which is kind of wild to me because you're putting your credit card into the eShop. Like, I think that's probably the most important place for it to be.
Yeah, another thing we have seen this year is game accessibility has become a prominent topic, and we're seeing this rising trend. I remember when I first joined the game industry 7 years ago. I'm not that old. I was talking about game accessibility and everyone just looked at me like I'm crazy. But now it's like I can have a game accessibility conversation with developers and platform holder without first explaining why do we need it and what does it mean, which is great. And a couple of things we see this year is we have the accessibility summer showcase. It's part of the E3 showcase but it's focused on accessibility, rather than like just what's cool game came out this year. So like that's a good way to like promote accessibility, especially indie game, to people who may want to play. There's also a website called Can I Play That? If there's a new game come out that you're really excited, but you don't know if it's accessible for you, you can go on that website, and they usually have like a journalist who goes through like all the accessibility criteria and evaluate, so you can understand the decision before you purchase. Otherwise, if you're a developer or if you're just interested in like the data, Ian Hamilton has a very good accessibility like blog, and he has like this ongoing update accessibility data that shows like different like resource and like how much game are accessible and like good or bad. If you like data, there's actually more coming up, but also like. There's like more talk in mainstream about like how accessibility can bring more player and bring more revenue. And to me, as a player, it's very important for me to know if a game is accessible to me before I purchase the game. I mean, yes, now we have more ways to refund the game. However, the refund requirement and the refund process is different across platform. There are certain platforms that just make it extremely hard. And video games are not cheap. So to me, it's important to have ways to let people know, because like Hamilton had this quote, which is like accessibility is not about how many people can benefit, but rather about you're making a statement about how many people do you want to exclude. So Can I Play That? Another good, a good resource. r/disabled gamer is actually a really good place for me because it's a good place where people can be like, I have this accessibility needs. I want to play this new game that just came out. Can I do it? And you have a peer help community. Another more and more game they just have their accessibility requirement on the website, which is great. Like EA has this, which EA has an accessibility hub, and you can go into and see how accessible each game is. So when it's coming from the developer, it's of course gonna be more comprehensive because they don't only talk about what accessibility feature the game currently have. They will also talk about what accessibility feature they're planning to have in recent future.
And so a small gripe that I've kind of been having, and I've heard other accessibility advocates notice this as well, that many mainstream gaming reviews continue to fail to address accessibility. And I'm just going to make an example out of Death Stranding 2. It has small text without the ability to make it larger or change the color, no way to adjust the different sounds in the game, and no option to toggle hold buttons. And the question I ask is, why should we write a good review for a AAA game that many people aren't able to play? This isn't some small indie game we're talking about here. This is Mr. Kojima, And as you can see from the picture here, he's got a lot of great scores. And it's a game that some people can't play. Like I wouldn't give a good game, give a good score to a game I can't play. But in happier news, I have also seen more talk about gaming accessibility by some mainstream media outlets. I always love, the accessibility reviews by Grant Stoner at IGN. He did one for the Switch 2 this year, as well as other articles. I love the talk about Drag X Drive that's happening, that Nintendo game that appears to be, very inspired by wheelchair basketball, but lacks a lot of accessibility features, including the option to use buttons to play the game. It has to be motion controls, which is kind of wild. And also, too, I was happy to see this video by Nintendo Life talking about motion sickness for some players who play Donkey Kong Bonanza. And so kind of the biggest elephant in the room, at least in my accessibility needs, is the worries of what is going on with Xbox. So I just have a few little screenshots here. There's been a lot of layoffs. Microsoft's trying to push a 30% profit margin for Xbox and from my understanding, that's kind of absurd. The prices for the consoles themselves are going up. They canceled Perfect Dark, which is also very wild to me because I feel like that game would have printed them money because it looked really good. And Costco's even stopped selling Xbox stuff, so that's not good. But what does all that have to do with accessibility? Well, if Microsoft turns Xbox into a tax write-off, we could lose long-term support for the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the Logitech Adaptive Gaming Kit for Xbox, as well as the Xbox Adaptive Joystick. And this wouldn't be the first time that we lost support for accessible gaming equipment. First, we lost support for the 3D rudder foot mouse. If you try to buy one now, the link to download the software no longer exists, and some very kind people have sent me the the program to download the software for this peripheral. But the problem is it keeps trying to connect to a server that doesn't exist, and that's because the company went out of business, which is really sad to see because a lot of people really enjoyed using this device, including myself. But a side note is we might have a new foot mouse coming. I saw this on Kickstarter, the Navi Foot ergonomic foot mouse. So we'll see how that goes. That looks fun. And so I know some people may ask, well, doesn't Logitech have a PlayStation version of the adaptive gaming kit? Well, the Xbox version, you get more buttons, and it's cheaper per button, and you get 2 different types of Velcro boards with your kit. The PlayStation version, you get less buttons, it's more expensive per button, and you only get 1 type of Velcro board. And the reason why these kits are important, because that's your other option for buying buttons. And I'm sorry the text is a little bit small here, but there is $75 buttons, and $95 button, and think about how many buttons are on a controller. That's just wild. And now, granted, some of these buttons are as big as dinner plates, but still. And I know some people may ask, well, doesn't PlayStation have an accessible controller? Well, they do, and some people actually prefer it to the Xbox Adaptive Controller, but kind of the huge difference here is that the Xbox Adaptive Controller has a lot of ports on the back for peripherals. So peripherals being things like the Logitech Adaptive Gaming Kit. I can plug these buttons into different ports on the Xbox Adaptive Controller, and I can make these buttons any button on the controller. And I can, for as many buttons that I have, I can, if I wanted to, I could choose a button for like every single button on the controller. You can't do that with the PlayStation Access controller. There's only 4 ports on it, and other things with the PlayStation Access controller, it does not work on PC or with other consoles, even when you're using an adapter, and it can't be used to set up a new PlayStation 5, which is really disappointing. Like with my Xbox adaptive controller, I was able to use that to set up my Xbox Series X. I couldn't do that with the PlayStation 5, and that's not cool. Like people with disabilities like to do things themselves. So I hope that they can fix that. And then we can also say too, well, doesn't Nintendo have something similar with the Hori Flex controller? Well, it's $150 more expensive. It's been out of stock on Hori's website since launch. This would be personal preference. Some people, like myself, like these giant buttons on the top of the Xbox adaptive controller. The Hori one has more buttons, but they're smaller. And it's been reported that it needs specialized joysticks when a lot of different joysticks work on the Xbox adaptive controller. So that's kind of disappointing on the Nintendo part. Here's the kicker. It's the Hori Flex controller is only available in the United States through the Able Gamers shop, which some may not want to shop at after accusations featured in the IGN article, which we will not get into today. Please Google it. And luckily with the Xbox adaptive controller, I've noticed it's for sale on a lot of different places, like even like Target, And I just want to make some comments because I'm aware that there is an Xbox boycott, and I just want to say, as someone who engages in other boycotts, I understand and respect those who wish to make their voice heard with their choice not to purchase from a certain company, and I am not blaming the boycott for us potentially losing Xbox's accessibility products. Just please understand that many people with disabilities rely on Xbox products to play video games, and it is an awful position to be in, to have to make the choice of whether one is going to fund a company that may not align with their values or have to give up the self-care and social benefits of gaming altogether. And I know I'm speaking, like I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, we all paid $125 at the very minimum to be here. We know that gaming is more than just games. It's social connection, it's self-care. You don't want to lose that. And really this goes to show why we need better accessibility across all gaming platforms. Why are so many accessibility eggs in the X basket? Sony needs to pick up the pace, Nintendo needs to pick up the pace. Steam, now getting into what appears to be more of a console market space, I hope that they can pick up the pace as well. And also, we'd love to see lots of more indie products as well, when I know there's already a lot of great ones out there.
Yeah, and another thing we're seeing this year is there has been, mostly in Europe, and a lot of accessibility mandate, which by that means you either comply to their accessibility guidelines or you are not allowed to publish in European continent. And luckily, Europe is a very big market, so a lot of game studios across the world are now started having to follow those, whether they want it or not, in order to be able to publish their game globally. So we should be able to see more push and more accessibility in the coming years. However, a lot of the accessibility guidelines focus strongly on visual disability or sensory disability, but there's very little to none psychological accessibility guidelines in any country. And another thing I just want to mention, because if you have paid attention to gaming industry at all in the past a year and two, you probably seen a lot of news about studio closure. And one of my friends actually, he does this game studio layoff spreadsheets and keep track of all the layoff, and it's very depressing, unfortunately. But it's a reality that's going on. Is gaming industry is the investment in game industry has been shrinking a lot in the past, like compared to like during the COVID time. Like some people say it's like boom and bust, but like I think it's more like just we are losing a lot of VC funding because they expect the game to get like 100x return, and hopefully there's like more funding from people who actually have a more realistic expectation. However, as of now, we are seeing is studios are losing talent in an extreme level, and a lot of those people, unfortunately, a lot of people who get impacted by layoff are BIPOC and like people with disability and marginalized identity. And in my experience working in like a lot of studios, those are also the people who advocate for accessibility. So when those people get laid off, you no longer have a voice. And also, I know personally there's multiple projects got their funding cut. And one of the things they cut when they lose their funding, and they have to cut features, so they cut accessibility because it's like it was seen like as the least intrusive feature to cut in the game production, but also like it's still not seen, accessibility is still not seen as like have its value that it deserves to when it comes to like game marketing and like game publishing. The giant elephant in the room that is called AI. I feel like I cannot imagine giving this talk today without even mentioning AI because this has been such a big topic. On one hand, we have seen like SEG after having strike, they've been striking for like a larger part of the year because of the AI, and AI has been like pushed, like a lot of people in the game studio feel like AI has been pushed for one reason or another. But on the other hand, we also know there are certain AI features can help with accessibility in different way. That being said, a lot of AI conversation I've had with people focus on replace human worker and replace like the work of human like compassion and the human input. However, we should not forget we are making game for human. So when we don't have like human input and human care to making game, because AI do not care about your psychological safety. AI do not care about your happiness. I'm so sorry if like anyone has AI boyfriend here. The love for AI is different. So I don't like, it's really worrying and concerning that everyone is like, oh, we don't need a game designer, we don't need a game programmer, we can just replace them with AI. But we are still trying to sell this product to human player as of now. So I don't want to like have a strong stance about this but like I do want to say there's a lot of extreme view on AI this year, and some like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Playtesting, one thing. So quickly, just like you see a lot of chart I read in black. These are charts from Game Developer Collective. Game Developer is there used to be Gamma Sutra, which is like a website for like game development, game business, and they do this quarterly survey for like invite-only members, and as in return they send you like the data and survey. And if you go on a website, you probably will see the news report about the result of the survey. But I'm lucky to get some insider data, so if you're interested. One thing I've seen a lot is like playtesting, because to be honest, one big thing we do and one big tool for accessibility design is playtesting, because every game has different accessibility needs and there's no like out-of-box way. So as we can see, like of course everyone playtests game, I hope everyone does, but a lot of playtesting still happens within the design team, or within the studio, or within friends and family. And the issue here is, as a game designer, I know my game inside out. I don't have the same accessibility needs as someone who don't know how the game system works underneath, because I know how to cheat my way around. And so game designers are not really the best person to playtest your game when it comes to accessibility. And we are still seeing there is, and like, the second big one you see is closed external playtesting, and which is great, but except for a lot of time it's either friends and family, and which become the issue is like when your mom play your game, she's not gonna tell you it sucks because she loves you. So you're not getting like the best feedback, and also a lot of closed external playtesting is influencers or like pro gamers. So you are getting like a very skewed feedback that may not reflect the actually player demographic when you release the game. So what's next? I feel like, we talk a lot about like the stuff about gaming industry, and another thing that's kind of impact accessibility is subscription. We are seeing more and more game studio, especially indie and AA, they get their money from subscription. And the thing we are seeing with Netflix, like people are not going to theater. People are not purchasing movies. They are waiting for it to release on Netflix and streaming service. And that's a habit a lot of film goers already have. And once film goers go to that habit, it's really hard to correct them. It's really hard to get them to go into theater again. Like you probably see like Shane Baker's speech last year at Oscar. He made a very important speech, but we are now seeing people going back to theater in the way it was before pandemic. And unfortunately, Microsoft and a lot of platforms are trying to do that with game, and that's really concerning because subscription in game isn't as successful as a lot of people claim, so you don't make as much money. And the other thing about subscription service for game developer is you no longer have the incentive to make your game accessible, so more people will purchase the game because people will play it on a platform that they already spent money on, and they will just they will just download. Well, I do this a lot as someone who uses some subscription services. I will download a game, open it, and find out it's inaccessible and delete it, and it's like no harm. But from the developer perspective, it's like they don't have the motivation to keep the game accessible. And for a long time, me and a lot of accessibility advocates, we advocate for accessibility because one big point is it helps you sell more game. And that's still a big rhetoric for a lot of able gamers, a lot of accessibility advocates. But when subscription service is such a big part of game income, we need to find more reasons to let developer know why they need to make their game accessible. Final words, I just want to say I dump a lot of really sad rhetoric, and that's why I want to post this is, yes, if you at the number, it hasn't been great. The game industry hasn't been the most positive, and a lot of I remember people saying survive until 2025, and now we're 2026. But one thing that really motivated me this year is the two breakout shows in 2025, which is Heated Rivalry and K-pop Demon Hunter. It's very important for me as an Asian person, as someone who grew up in the Asian fandom, is because my whole career I've been pitching concept and games that I know people will like. But if you look at the numbers, Heated Rivalry should never be successful. And who would want hockey and romance? And it's the only reason the movie happens is because it's funded by Canadian government. And it's also, because it's portrayed autistic person, autistic representation. However, if you work in a lot of studios, they make all their business decisions based on numbers and based on prediction. If you do that, you're probably not gonna greenlit this whole show, and we wouldn't have such a wonderful show. And same with K-pop Demon Hunter, Sony literally gave up their music rights because they don't think the movie is gonna hit, and which is unfortunately not the case. But it's another movie. When Netflix put the movie on the Netflix, they didn't expect it to be such a big hit. They expected it to be just be big among K-pop fandom, but that's it. So I want to just remind everyone that we are making entertainment for human, and human cannot be represented and quantified by numbers and bell curve. And I hope the success of these two shows can give people more inspiration next year that we should think beyond numbers, and we should get to know our player as human and cater our experience for what human actually need.
So just wondering if anyone had any questions, comments, or accessibility experiences or stories. You're absolutely welcome to walk up to the mic, and if you need the microphone to be brought to you, just raise your hand, and a volunteer will bring you the microphone.
All right, so my name is Dean. I'm a pharmacist with autism. So I'm a little weird in that. So, but we're all, we all have our quirks. But my concern is like with the reality in general, because it seems as though like the higher ups, they're trying to discourage people to basically look down on DEI, and that hurts. So I actually at this point I don't know what to do. Like, so the first part is how can we get involved, and number two, this part probably similar to number one, how can we be accessibility advocates to help you guys out?
Yeah, I also have autism, and it's actually a really interesting topic. I'm the founder of IGDA Neurodivergency.
What is that? I'm sorry? I couldn't hear it.
Oh, I'm the founder of IGDA Neurodivergency, which is like a game dev organization for neurodivergent game developer. And one thing about autism that I find really fascinating is there's actually a very huge percentage of game developers who are neurodivergent, like way higher than like average, because game attracts neurodivergent people. However, the people on the top are not. A lot of like people on the top, if you look at like the head of Nintendo, the head of PlayStation, they come from a business background, not a game developer background. That's why you see the mismatch. And I can promise you, a lot of game developers are not happy about it. But there's very little we can do. And like one thing I would really recommend everyone to do is be loud when you love something, vote with your wallet. And because like a good example of heated rivalry is like people don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to bring it mainstream. And then suddenly it's big because people are very loud about how much they love it. And now you're seeing them on late night show, you're seeing them on Golden Globe. So that's what we can do as gamers, is we can be loud and just be open and like support the game that does well, and like maybe don't support the game that does not match your value. And that's a good way, no matter what happens in the government, in the policy. We live in a capitalist society and people likes money.
I mean, the best thing I could do is just to keep doing it. Just keep posting, saying, we are here and we matter too.
Yes, thank
so
you.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and jumping off of Monica's point, and exactly what you said is, and you mentioned like wanting to be that advocate, and yeah, just continue being you, because there's no one else like you, and at the same time, there's a lot of people who are going through your similar experience. As you mentioned that, you're a person who lives with autism, and I think MAGFest is like such the like perfect like representation of this. Like we are around, we have found our people, and we are such a big group of people. And then it goes to show like, hey, it is okay to be me. It is okay, to have this experience with disability, and just know that you are absolutely, loved, and just be you, make your voice heard. And I also just wanted to thank you for being a pharmacist and being a healthcare worker, because healthcare workers need to be thanked. So really, thank you for all you do in keeping us safe and well.
Yes, I appreciate it. This is my first MAGFest.
Yes, welcome. Yay.
I've been to, I went to Katsucon, by the way, so this is not my first venue, but you can blame Katsucon for me coming here. Anyway, thank you so much for answering the question. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking it.
Hello, my name is Cole. For the purposes of this story, actually not. No, okay, anyway, so what I want to talk about is just last year I ended up contributing to an open source project in order to address accessibility needs in it. So the project in question is Dr. Robotnik's Ring Racers, a fan game developed, basically a fan game developed on like the Doom engine, and it's a kart racer, basically, like Mario Kart, but for the freaks, let's say that. Like in terms of complexity and mechanics, it's like if Mario Kart was like crazy. So I've been, it's a game I've been like, playing a bunch of for a long time, since it came out in 2024, and I've been trying to get people into it. So one particular friend, I, convinced them to try the game, and they can't even get out of the tutorial because the graphical effects in the game are, even with the existing reduce effects setting turned on, were just like to the point that they couldn't even get out of the tutorial without developing a major migraine. And for a bit, I was trying to address it with mods and just replacing game assets, just trying to do it like a simple thing. But then as I kept going and I was practicing C++, I realized that probably the best way to do it would just be to code it in directly into the game. So
nice.
Over the course of last year especially, I was working on kind of using what little programming knowledge I had and frankly still have to get these features working. And it took a while. The developers are very understanding. It's less a case they're not trying to make an inaccessible game. They just very small team with a very small pool of people who test and play the game in general. So I started working on that, and eventually a new version of the game was starting to come out, and I started crunching myself to get it done and reviewed and all that, and so ultimately that was successful. The latest version of the game has basically every tweak and fix I made. So, eliminates pretty much all flashing elements from the game.
Nice.
Eliminate that sort of thing. A lot of it's visual focused. So besides motor and mechanical accessibility. Not much of that, unfortunately, and I'm not really an expert in any of that. But I don't know. It felt good to get that done and get the game actually in a working spot. Even if the friend ultimately has not played much of the game and took 3 sessions to actually start enjoying it, even after all the fixes. Nothing to do with the accessibility, just But yeah, it's. I don't really have a question. I just kind of, after doing that, it's kind of now I'm noticing all the visual elements that cause that sort of stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, how did I deal with the screen flashing before? It's I have a problem with it now.
Yeah, that's the thing about seeing player as human is the more I get to know each player, the more I have a long list thing in my brain when I design game, be okay, no more flashlights, and maybe don't put people in a claustrophobic room, and a lot of stuff, it's hard to find a checklist. There's no universal checklist, but getting to know your player is a good way. And thank you for sharing your story. It's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for hosting this panel. Sorry. No, that wasn't me. What? Okay, no worries. But yeah, so this stuff's important, and yeah, I just wanted to share that since I really don't. What other context am I going to share that makes sense?
Thank you for caring about accessibility in your game and taking that feedback and be okay, I want to fix this. Just I remember supposed to be repeating the questions. He was talking about how he was developing an indie game, and his one of the people who was playing it was having some troubles with the flashing, and he went into the game and fixed it. And the other thing too, I just want to say, I understand with indie games, small budget, small crew, all you can do is just do your best. And what you did was made that game more playable for at least one person, but it will I would assume that it would very much be helpful to other people. So really, thanks for caring. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I contributed to the projects, and so I'm not really even a developer on it, but after like all that was sitting in, I got like thanks from several other people who are like, oh, thank you. Now I can play the game a lot more comfortably,
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Anyway,
thanks
I'll
for
go
what you
ahead
do,
and,
man.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey guys, so my name's Brett. I'm from Philly. This is my first full MAGFest. I was
Welcome. Yeah.
half LobbyCon Pirate Outlaw last year, half official conner after I bought someone's badge. Was in that mess with the secondhand market for a bit. And I teach tennis for a living, so I don't look it, I know, but I really get the importance of accessibility because when you've been teaching for so long, you tend to see the entire spectrum, and I mean everything. So I've seen a lot of kids with autism, multiple personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, a lot. So I could go over, and it's a huge deal for me because I got to find new ways to, when I'm teaching, how can I speak in a way that the kid is going to actively know what I'm going to say. I can't do like the same way I do anyone else because they're just going to either ignore it or be confused or go crazy. So I definitely see the importance of it. Now, I know earlier you said you wanted to get people to not think about numbers and, think about the heart behind making sure that there's accessibility for kids in gaming. I got here like 20 minutes late in the line and everything, but I don't know. Is there a accessibility rating board by any chance?
An accessibility. What'd you say?
An accessibility rating board.
Yes, so there are like a couple different options if you want to find out if a game is accessible. And the one of them was the can I play that that Monica had mentioned. They have some nice accessibility reviews on there. As well as able to play, which you can make an account, say what your accessibility needs are, and then they'll match you with games, and they'll give you a little percentage on your match of whether it's a good as if it has those settings that you need and such. And another one is just a lot of independent content creators, some examples being Steve Saylor or Laura K. Buzz, or myself. I do write accessibility reviews, though it takes me a little bit longer to get them out because I don't do it for a living, I just do it for fun. But I write about the accessibility in each game that I play, and and from there you can see what features it does have, what features it doesn't have, and so that's kind of the way it is right now. I'm hoping with the Accessible Games Initiative that it gets better, especially as kind of it gets a little bit better because I know we mentioned how the rollout hasn't been perfect, but as things improve, that hopefully we can have a more standardized accessibility
kind of like
database
Metacritic in a way?
And stuff like that. Yeah.
I think it would, if you want to pressure the industry, if there was an accessibility rating in Metacritic, where you get everybody's ratings and you put it into one individual score, and then everyone can see that score, and then of course everyone's ratings that led to that below. Those of us who have been gaming chats and everything in the past, especially back in the Xbox One, PS4 days, Metacritic was everything. If your game wasn't a 90 meta, it was basically a failure. And even though that shouldn't have been true, a lot of people acted like that. And if you have a accessibility Metacritic, that could pressure some developers to focus more on accessibility, especially if it's third party, because like you said earlier, you don't want the developers who aren't designing a game for accessibility to be the arbiters of whether the game is accessible or not, because then they're going to just say, our game is accessible, and it might not be. It might totally not be. So I think if you have a third party that does all that, and they're a industry reputable third party, then I think that would get people in line. Alongside, I hate to say it again, numbers, because if you're able to say, let's say 20% of gaming households have one person with disabilities who needs an adaptive controller, that could influence the accountants and financiers that only look at numbers and say, oh, okay, maybe we should focus on accessibility. and making sure that we can cater to that 20%, because that 20% could be a make or break for sales.
Yeah, the number is interesting because actually in the last year, one thing I didn't add is AARP, I think American Association of Retired People, they started doing a lot of gaming, and there's actually an AARP talk on YouTube about like accessibility, game design, and like how to design. And because this is a really interesting thing is everyone is able-bodied until like temporarily able-bodied, but like most old people, you have disability. And the other thing is we have a generation of retired people who are very rich. Like they have so much more wealth as a millennial that I couldn't even imagine. And so if we can make game more accessible, we can target them and get some of their wealth.
Yeah. I was also gonna talk about the AI comments too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like 50-50 in between. Like I definitely see the dark side of AI. I saw it with my brother talking to ChatGPT like it's another person. And I could definitely see where like a lot of jobs could be lost. But I also see like the flip side where AI can both take away accessibility but then also give accessibility, because I think one of the biggest hurdles coming forward in gaming has been cost of development. And as you mentioned earlier, when they have to cut costs and they cut accessibility, you have these big companies that are building all these big studios that need like a minimum of like 5 million sales to break even. And what tends to happen is those development costs might get the studio shut down. And those, studios being shut down can just cut accessibility on its own because people aren't making games because they're at home. But inversely, right, you get like an indie studio that's just getting started off, and maybe they have the coders that can make the game, but they don't have the artwork that can make the game, right? And AI might be able to make some of the what's the word I'm looking for? The items, the properties that could be used. Of course, they're still gonna like make sure that it works with how they intend with their vision, but it's not like they're replacing somebody. It's more like they have a fourth person that's just in the void helping them out with object creation, character creation, maybe even, and might even save costs and time in development. And they could even use AI to prioritize accessibility. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, AI as a tool definitely has its benefit. However, we are dealing with the intention of the people who invest in AI at the moment. But I have hope that once the AI bubble bursts and once the hype died down, we can actually evaluate AI on a more like objective perspective.
And I think I just want to shout out to that there are some AI things that have been very helpful to folks with disabilities. I always make an example of the auto closed captioning that, on YouTube videos. That helps me a whole bunch, especially when someone hasn't made their own captions. Ideally, someone makes their own captions, or at least like goes back and like edits them to make sure that they're right, because sometimes they're wrong and it's very frustrating. Erica and Scott did a panel last year about, about blind gaming. I know that Scott was talking a lot about like how he uses AI as a person who's blind, and it kind of like he like it will tell him like what someone looks like and stuff like that. And I think that's really wonderful, because I know there's things like Be My Eyes and stuff like that, and that should never go away. We should always have the option to have a real person. But I think there's like maybe sometimes where a person doesn't want to talk with another person and would rather just talk with the computer, like, hey, what's in front of me, especially like maybe if they're shy or something like that. So thank you for your comments on that. And I just want to say we have time for one more question, but if you guys want to talk with us after the fact, please do. Monica and are going to be here like after the panel as well, and I'll have my my business cards, and we'll also have our contact information as well. And hi, I love your shirt. I love Spy Family.
Hi, I'm Christy. I just had like more comments than questions, but one podcast I really like about accessibility is Control-Alt-Access, and I think Laura K. Buzz is one of the hosts for that. And they kind of talk about accessibility like all over the world, even though they're based in Europe. So a lot of the focus is on events in Europe, but they also talk about games just wherever they are. And then I wanted to tell a story about a game I played this year. It was Mafia: The Old Country, a big action adventure scary game. It was very good. And I have dyspraxia and autism, so I struggle a lot in games with holding down the button or like quick time events or navigation, like finding your way. And that game had really good accessibility settings. I was able to make the interface, like the HUD and all the things on screen a bit bigger, and I was able to make the subtitles bigger, and it also had a feature where you could have quick time events like autocomplete, so if I was sneaking up on people, I didn't have to press a bunch of buttons to do a sneak attack. So that was a really cool game that really stood out to me this year.
Thank you so much for your comments, and I apologize if I was misunderstanding anything you were saying. It's a little loud outside, but they were talking about Laura K. Buzz, who I mentioned earlier, is fantastic accessibility content creator. She's been in the space for quite a while, and I really suggest that you watch her YouTube channel. She doesn't know me or anything. Like I had said before, it's not sponsored. I just love watching her content. She really does a great job of talking about how a game can be accessible and improvements that can be made to it. And they were also talking about different accessibility settings that have been helpful to them, such as being able to not have to hold down a button. That's a big thing for me because that always hurts. Thank you so much for your comments.
Yeah, and another resource for those who I just realized I forgot to add it is IGDA. They host a GACon Game Accessibility Conference, usually twice a year, and everything is online, and they have talks and stuff. It's like GDC, but very focused on game accessibility. So there's a lot of great discussion from many different topics if you're interested.
Great. So here's our contact information. Feel free to take a picture if you'd like. And I'll also have some business cards too, at least for my contact information if that's something you're interested in. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Substack as at Majestic Accessibility, and I'm on Blue Sky as at majesticgaming.bsky.social. And you can also feel free to email me. As I mentioned before in my accessibility social media, I'd like to post accessibility reviews for the games that I play, and also just talk about other random topics with gaming accessibility.
Yeah, and I am at designer Monacat on all the platform I want to be found. Otherwise, you can just look me up under my name, Monica Fan, F-A-N. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for you guys all coming and talking with us about accessibility.